I'd like to start with a moment of silence, and if everybody would, in their thoughts, keep the former president in your mind. Thank you. And the pledge to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Start with Positively Carroll. I would just like to start welcoming the two new commissioners in for the first meeting here officially. I'm looking forward to doing great things for Carroll County as the new board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will say welcome, gentlemen. It's going to be a fun time for the next 4 years. But we do have Jeff Daggett from Parks and Rec with us here today. And I tell you, Commissioner Rothstein and I were at the Santa calling event as elves, helping Santa out. And I think he reached over 300 children this year. And that is unbelievable. Commissioner, you had, I think, a good experience.
It was a great experience. I mean, the opportunity to serve our community, especially with the kids, was awesome. And it was a great program. And thanks for inviting me and Audrey to participate. So thanks.
It's probably one of the best events. It's fun. I really enjoyed it.
An absolute perk. Yeah. Okay.
Anybody else have anything for Positively Carroll?
So yeah, I would also like to extend my congratulations to both of you. I think,
Thank you,
and welcome you to the dais here. I think I'm looking forward to working with both of you and continuing on the path of keeping Carroll successful as it is, #1 in many categories across the state. So I look forward to what you both bring to the table. One of the interesting things about this format is having different journeys in life to get here brings a huge amount of good things when we're making decisions here. So
Much
kudos
appreciated.
to both of you, and I think we're gonna do well. A couple things positive, Carroll. I had the opportunity to attend the anniversary of Access Carroll on Monday, and Access Carroll is one of those success stories, if you will, that is unlike any place else in the state of Maryland. Here we go again. They're providing, in layman's terms, health care, dental care, etc., for those that can't afford it, and it's as a result of collaboration and cooperation between many different agencies: the Carroll Hospital Center, Partnership for a Healthier Carroll, and the list goes on and on. But I'd like to extend my congratulations to Tammy Black and all of the folks over there at Access Carroll and what they've been accomplishing. I think it's 4 years now. Is that where we are with them? I can't remember.
How long they've been around?
Yeah.
Oh, much longer.
Much longer than that. Okay. But in the format they're in, I think it's, I can't remember what they.
They've been expanding.
Right. Right.
Some things got started before you were on the board.
Yeah. Okay, that's true. And I would also like to thank all of those that attended the swearing-in ceremony here on when was that? Tuesday. Jeez. It's great to see the amount of folks come out and support the new folks as we roll on. Not only here, but at the Board of Ed and the various folks that raised their right hand on Tuesday. So congratulations to all. And the last thing I have is, you mentioned it, Commissioner Frazier, 41. If you had a chance to watch the funeral yesterday, or if you've recorded it, to watch it later on, it was an amazing event, and kind of brought a lot of people to tears. But the point is, we do it like anybody else in the world. And Ed, with your background, you know that's spot on true.
Yep.
And really felt proud about the way in which our country said goodbye to, I think, a fantastic leader. So kudos to everyone involved with that.
All right. Commissioner Weaver, have anything?
Done.
Commissioner Boucher?
I'm good.
All right. I do want to mention one other thing. We have the tree lighting here Monday. I believe it's at 5 o'clock. Am I right about that?
Yes.
Tree lighting here at 5 o'clock in front of the county office building for all those who would like to come for the tree lighting. All right, with that, we'll go to our first item on the agenda. It's a grant award for Woodsey Estates. We have Gail Ingalls, Kelly Martin, and Karen Jagoda. Oh, Tom is here instead. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess you can fill in, Tom.
Thank you, Commissioners. Whoa.
Good morning.
Good morning. I thought since this was the first time for our newest members regarding one of these projects that I'd do a little bit of an introduction. I am joined by Ms. Gail Ingalls, who's our Chief of Bureau of Resource Management, and also Ms. Kelly Martin, who's our Watershed Grants Technician. And what you're going to be presented here today and discussed about today actually is their efforts, and I want to really emphasize that. So for the benefit of our two newest members, which welcome aboard, I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about and describe this program, which this grant acceptance request is based upon, because it's a very involved program.
Before you do that, if I can,
Yes, sir.
Karen's in the back, who was also mentioned. If you can stand up so the new commissioners can get to know who you are. There you go. Thank
Thanks.
you. All right, go ahead.
The NPDES MS4 program, which National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, Municipal Separate Storm Sewer. It's a permit that the county has. We're in our 4th generation of it, so we've had 4 issuances of it. It's a 5-year permit, so we've been 20 years now. We've had that. We've been working on this permit. It's a federal-backed permit that is state delegated and state enforced and implemented. It's a very complex, multi-component permit. It has a lot of different requirements. The largest effort, both in staff resources and fiscally, is related to water quality restoration requirements and components of it. And that then is related to what's called impervious acre mitigation. So what the county was charged to do was determine how much impervious acres we have in the county, impervious acres being all the rooftops, roads, parking lots, anything hard surfaces. We had to determine how much of that in the county was not being treated with stormwater, and basically was untreated. And when I say in the county, this permit is both ourselves and our co-permittees, the municipalities, so it's across the entire county. Initially, the permit was issued with just the county and not the municipalities. They joined us in this last permit, and we have a great working relationship. So this permit is basically seamless across Carroll County as far as its efforts. So we had to determine how many of those acres of imperviousness out there are not being treated, are basically providing no water quality treatment of those surfaces. And of that, we are required to mitigate a certain percentage. 10% from our last permit, 20% for this permit. So all the projects that we undertake to do that mitigation, they are part of the CIP, the Community Investment Program process. So we look out 5 to 6 years. Ms. Ingalls and her staff do a wonderful job of identifying projects out in that process, and this project has been included in that process. So every project that we bring you has been, formulated, developed, and vetted through the Community Investment Program process. Funding for these projects comes from a combination of county funds, municipal contributions, our municipal co-permittees and partners. They put a certain percentage into this effort, and then grants. And you're going to hear about part of the grant process today. So we're here today to request your acceptance of a grant which will provide support for the engineering design of a project. We'll be coming to you at a later time about the construction of this project. Most of these projects take years, and we're here before you numerous times for different phases. The grants phases, the design phases, the construction phases. So you'll see us a lot up here with all these different projects. So with that just basic overview, because I know you're going to have a busy day today, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Ingalls, and she'll talk about the specifics of this project, and then Ms. Martin will follow up with the specifics of the grant for you. Okay.
Just before we get to the specifics, you said 20% in total. How much is the total?
This permit,
a good question.
the total is about 8,000 some acres. So our 20% this time was about 1,630 some, 1614.
So is that 1614 for this year?
For this 5-year
For
permit.
the
term.
5-year permit?
That's correct.
This is 16, okay, got it.
Yes.
Thanks. Okay, cool.
That number is etched in my mind, that's why
I
I
know.
know what it was, so. So I just wanted to go over with you this morning a little bit about how we select projects to go into the program. And one thing we look at is our existing stormwater management facilities. So Carroll County has about 200 existing stormwater ponds that we maintain, that we've actually taken on over the last probably 25 to 30 years or more. And these ponds are obviously in different states of repair, or they're functioning for different reasons. So the first thing we do is we look at those facilities and we say, are there facilities that need to be upgraded? Do we have corrugated metal pipes that need to be addressed, large erosion problems? And we, for a twofold reason, we want to help the maintenance of those. We want to be able to maintain them better, and we want them functioning adequately. But at the same time, we're thinking, okay, we can get some impervious treatment out of the older ones that don't address water quality issues. So we look at those facilities first, and this was one of the facilities that came along with maintenance problems. This facility wasn't not as old as what we'd like it to be, but it was having maintenance problems. It was a facility constructed in 2000, but however, we had issues with overcharging the small facility. There are 2 facilities related to this project. The smaller facility wasn't handling the amount of drainage going to it, and the larger facility, the sand filter was not functioning as a sand filter should. The new design that we'll incorporate into the construction will function as a sand filter should. There should be no ponding water in a sand filter. This had some ponding issues. We also had some erosion at the outfall, very severe erosion, because we weren't retaining the water at a very long intervals. It was pretty much a catch and release type facility. So this facility was put onto our CIP numerous years ago, and I'm going to turn it over now to Kelly to explain a little bit about the grant and where we're at with that grant program.
Okay, so on August 30th, the Board of County Commissioners authorized our staff to submit an application to the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation Small Watershed Grant for $50,000 to fund the design of these facilities. And we were awarded that money. So this money will be used to fund preliminary and final design of the retrofit of the 2 existing facilities and 1,600 linear foot stream restoration. This facility is located in District 5 on Ash Grove Court off of Piney Ridge Parkway in Eldersburg. So this project, as Gail said, addresses nutrient reduction and impervious area treatment requirements of the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit. The drainage area for this facility is 59 acres, and there are 16 impervious acres, and 14 of those 16 acres have no water quality treatment at this time.
So one other thing I'd like to add to that, the county match was for the concept design of the plan, which is already pretty close to being done. So the additional contribution that the federal government through the NIFWIF program would be the preliminary and final. There's 3 stages of stormwater: concept, preliminary, and final, and that's with design.
You said that the sand filter had water pooling on top of it, and it wasn't working, but was that the only way for water to get out of the facility?
It had a low underdrain. It had an underdrain that was a little bit higher than the sand filter. They're designed a little bit differently. They have a release on those that's a little bit higher than the sand filter. But the new way is strictly through the sand filter itself.
Because I was wondering why you said there was erosion if it wasn't going through the sand filter.
That's what was causing the erosion.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
So you talked about life cycle, and this did not meet its life cycle. What is the expected life cycle of these type of facilities? And then why didn't this meet the life cycle?
So the older facilities were corrugated metal pipes. A lot of those were put in with corrugated metal pipes.
Okay.
So we're finding the life to be about 25 to 30 years. So when we retrofit those facilities, we're putting in concrete pipes, and the life cycle on them is much longer, twice as long as what we. Now the sand filters we're experimenting with, the first one was put in about 10 years ago, and it's functioning very well. We've never had one that has failed to this point. They're a new design. So a life cycle on that, we really can't really predict at this time, but we're hoping we get at least 30 years out of those.
So how old is this one?
This facility was built in 2000, so 18 years old.
So it really was about 10-year below the life cycle.
It was,
expectation.
yes.
Okay.
And it also, like I said, it had a lot of erosion at the outfall,
Right.
which was causing a lot of sediment to leave in that drainage area below.
One thing to keep in mind that the standards have changed, so there's a lot higher standards now that things are being built towards. And a lot of the older facilities did not, as Gail had indicated, did not treat as much water. So we're actually increasing the treatment capacity of them. We're maximizing it in most cases, which gets us more credit for our impervious mitigation. And we're making them easier to maintain. A lot of the older facilities are very hard to get to. They're steep-sided. They're hard to mow. So when we do these facility upgrades, we go in there and lay the slopes back. We make them easy to maintain. We make them easy to get to. So we're basically making a tremendous improvement on our infrastructure, our stormwater infrastructure. And that's what I want to emphasize to everybody, that this is an infrastructure item just like water, just like sewer. And so we do those improvements. We also work with our Department of Public Works. If there's storm drain issues in the watershed, we try to do everything at one time. So when we walk away from there, we're hoping to leave a product that's going to be there for a very long time once these projects are done. We also, we also go in and retrofit areas that don't have any stormwater. They don't have any at all. The older sections of our municipalities and of the county areas, we go in and actually put facilities where there aren't facilities. And a lot of times we have severely degraded streams. And right after we do a lot of these facilities, you know, we have the streams are healing themselves almost, you know, immediately. So, okay.
All right, any further questions?
I move the Board of County Commissioners approve the award of $50,000 from National Fish and Wildlife Federation Small Watershed Grant for the Woodside Estate Stormwater Management Facility Design.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Commissioner.
you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
board.
And thanks for the education.
Need
No,
all
no,
the education
Took 4
we can
years
get.
now to know what it's about. Okay, next is a request approval to apply for land water conservation funds with Jeff Diggets.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Welcome
Good morning.
to your two new commissioners.
Thank you, sir.
We're gonna hear that all day long? No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm enjoying it.
We'll see how long we can continue.
That's right. Ask me in 90 days.
That's right.
Yeah.
For some outlying reasons, so are some of us.
Thank you.
I'm here this morning to request permission to apply for Land and Water Conservation Fund grant. We have a capital project out at Double Pike Creek Park. If you're not familiar with that park, it's about a 3.5 acre park. It's located in the metropolis of Detour, which is about 10 or 15 houses on the western side of the county. We have some facilities there. Now we have basketball court, pavilion, picnic facilities. The stream runs through that area. There was an old access point for boating. It's a set of stairs, and the best way to describe it, it's the equivalent of walking up a ladder to your roof. It's incredibly steep, very difficult to navigate, and by no means ADA accessible. So we have a capital project. Design is underway now. There's funding for construction next year. We looked at this, and we looked at the opportunity for Land and Water Conservation Fund support for the project. They will pay 50% of the construction costs if we get the grant. So we felt this was a really good opportunity to pursue that. The remaining funds for this project will be supported by program open space and impact fees and a very small amount of general fund dollars. So at this point, we're requesting permission to apply for the grant. Just to give you an idea what the timeline is, if we send an application in, they're due by December 18th. We should hear sometime in February if we are a finalist for the grant and still in consideration, and then hear probably around May as far as whether or not we receive an award for the grant. So we would be back each of those times. We're asking permission now to apply. We'd be back in February to give you an update if we're a finalist, and then once again for permission to receive the grant. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Any questions?
So you're confident in submitting this grant application? Because we're talking only a couple weeks
Yes.
to get it put together, packaged. You have the resources to put this grant application together and get it in there by the 18th?
Yes,
With that
it's
level
well
of
underway
confidence?
now.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I would expect the answer would be yes, but okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Any other questions?
Now, I'll go ahead and make the motion that we approve the submittal of the grant application to DNR for the Land Water Conservation Funds to support the Double Pipe Creek boat ramp.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I ask you a question before you leave?
Absolutely.
If we don't get this grant application, are we still going to move forward with the restoration or the retrofitting, however you want
Yes.
to call it? Okay.
Yes.
Just to make sure. Okay.
And-
Because the
and
way you
what-
described it, it was like, we got to do this anyway.
Well, that is in the plan. I mean, that will be a part of the capital budget that's approved as part of the overall budget process, but it is in the 5-year plan with construction scheduled for next year.
Okay.
When this opens up, you don't go kayaking with me?
Absolutely.
Good.
Kayaking, tubing, it's a great
Awesome.
location for that. I've run that stretch before. There's about an 8-mile stretch on that water trail now.
Beautiful.
And it really is some beautiful scenery there. And that's a nice area of the county where we can try to promote some ecotourism.
It's a tremendous asset to the county.
I agree.
Any beavers in that area?
Anything else?
Not yet. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have a request approval to submit 2019 Comprehensive Case Management and Supports Planning Services for Medicaid Long-Term Services and Supports Solidification. Ms. Christine Kay, Celine Steckel, and Gina Valentine.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome again. I'm going to try and simplify what that title means.
And that's pretty long.
Do my best, I know. First, I'd just like to introduce Celine Steckel, who's our Bureau Chief of Aging and Disabilities, and Gina Valentine, who's our Aging and Disabilities Services Supervisor.
Almost as bad as that title.
Right, almost.
The title is great.
So this grant title, 2019 Comprehensive Case Management and Supports Planning Services for Medicaid Long-Term Services. This is a renewal program. This is an annual renewal of these funds. One of the departments in the Bureau of Aging and Disabilities is our waiver program. And the waiver program provides case management to seniors and to individuals with disabilities who are applying for and/or enrolled in a number of different waivers, including the Community Options Waiver, Community First Choice, Community Services, and the Community Personal Assistance Service programs. So the total cost of this particular renewal is $335,000, which covers the cost of 3 case managers and a program coordinator, or 4 case managers. Am I reading that right?
Yes, so it's actually 3 case managers that are 32 hours a week, 1 case manager that's at 37.5 hours a week, and then a full-time program coordinator of the program. That's why it was broken down a little differently.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay,
That's
so through the solicitation, the Bureau of Aging and Disabilities is actually designated as the Supports Planning Agency, which means that we are a designated Medicaid provider for this program. And we assist our applicants by providing participants with accessing Medicaid and non-Medicaid funded programming for home and community-based services and supports. The focus of the case management services is to provide person-centered planning approaches to selecting services that are going to allow these individuals to remain in their home or bring them out of an institution and make sure that they are situated in their home so that they're not going to end up in a long-term care placement. I'm going to let Gina give you some more information and details about the services that we provide through this program and also some of the statistics that we have on the program.
The home and community-based services programs, they provide a wide range of services to individuals who qualify. The individuals who are either in the program or applying, they have to be medically eligible and financially eligible. But some of the services that are provided are personal care. That's a primary service that a lot of our participants like to have. Life emergency response systems, home delivered meals, environmental assessments, and then environmental adaptations to make the home more accessible and safe for the individuals. Case management services, which all clients are required to accept, assistive technology, and nurse monitoring services. We have a client capacity. Our client capacity is 148 clients. We are frequently at capacity. Right now we have 1 opening. We have 147 clients. The program runs on a calendar year, and so in 18 we had a total of 158 clients. And as was described, this program functions on a fee-for-service model. So our staff members are billing for services that are provided to the clients, and then we generate the revenue, which helps us to then function and staff the program. They can bill for services such as meeting with the clients, arranging for services or adjusting services for clients, but we cannot bill for travel or for training. So if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
How many years have we had this grant?
We have had the Home and Community-Based Services programs for at least 15 years. In 2014, there was a change to the program, actually a lot of changes to the program, and that's when we started receiving this particular solicitation. So this is the 5th year, actually, of the solicitation.
And what happens if it's not renewed?
If it's not renewed, we would have 148 clients that would have to find other providers to provide their services to them because they all have to have a supports planning agency or a case management agency. And it would also mean, of course, not operating the program at all if this were not renewed.
Okay. And chances of renewal is pretty good every...
We have monitorings that every year by Maryland Department of Health, and we are somewhere in like the 90 to 95% compliance with our solicitation. So, I foresee that they're definitely going to renew this for us and will continue to do so. Our staff members do a fantastic job with meeting all of the requirements that are in the solicitation, and there are a lot of requirements in the solicitation for our staff members to meet. So I don't foresee any issues with us not getting renewed.
Okay.
Has this, just real quick, has this been like an annual act-react approach where, your success, you have to react and solicit for more funding? I mean, is there ever going to be a time where you're not going to be soliciting for more funding and the grant's going to stay in place?
The only time that I foresee us not being able to get this, I hope I'm answering your question, is that if we were functioning very poorly under the solicitation. There are other case management agencies that do serve clients in Carroll County, and there have been a couple who they have not been renewed. And so, I just, again, foresee that this is going to be approved for us, and we haven't had any communication to us otherwise.
So every year you solicit for funding to run this grant, to run the program?
Essentially, yes. I mean, it's called a solicitation, but it's basically they send us the contract and we send it back to them, and it's approved.
Okay.
Right. So in this situation, we're not writing the solicitation. They're actually providing us with the contract and what we need to adhere to and provide, and we're just agreeing that we can obtain, sustain that, and that we can run the grant for them that way and provide the services.
Okay, I got it.
So this is actually the second option that is under a 3-year option agreement. So the renewable, we already know there's another option coming next year as well that they're putting out for solicitation.
Okay. Thanks.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners, and welcome to the new board members. I'm Debbie Standiford. I'm the grants manager. Maybe this would answer your question a little bit in more detail. Almost all the grants that we apply for require that we apply on an annual basis. So you will see the grants coming before you, both at application and award, pretty much on a regular annual basis.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
I move the Board of Commissioners approve the 2019 Comprehensive Case Management and Support Planning Services for Medicaid Long-Term Services and Supports solicitation.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we move on to request approval for additional 18-hour-a-week contractual senior inclusion program, A position. We have these same cast of characters, more or less. Go ahead.
Commissioners, I'd like to introduce Rich Atone, who is the program coordinator for the Senior Inclusion Program. Let me right out of the gate say that we are requesting this position outside of the budget cycle for a couple reasons. One, county dollars are not required for this contractual position. Also, the Senior Inclusion Program is a program fully funded by the Developmental Disabilities Administration, and we operate out of the Westminster Senior Center. It is a program for adults with disabilities who are at retirement age, and they come to the Senior Center and participate in programs and activities. We are required to have a certain staff-to-client ratio in order to operate. And also, most recently, DDA, an agency of the Department of Health, recognized a need for increased community integration and personal choice in all aspects of life for people with developmental, intellectual, and physical disabilities. So we now are implementing those changes, and which are requiring kind of more, Celine and Rich can talk more to this, but kind of just more staffing, because some folks don't want to spend their day at the center. They may want to spend their day somewhere else, and we need, again, to make sure the staffing ratios are adequate. So the total cost of the position is $11,912. It's an 18-hour per week aid position, and as I said, it's contractual.
Okay, and as Christine said, in the past few years, there's been a significant shift, a culture shift with developmental disabilities, the administration, to provide an increased community presence and community options for the individuals that we serve through our program. And to do this, we have to keep pace with these changes. Our senior inclusion program has been making that shift as well. So over the past 2 years, we've really looked at how we deliver services. We've looked at and how we're offering them to our individuals. Are we truly offering them options in the community setting, which is also our senior center at Westminster? But can we also, and we've talked before you in the past, expand into other senior centers? Can we offer these, the activities we have at other senior centers and make those available to these individuals as well? And from a staffing perspective, how would we do that? And so part of that, we're looking at the expansion of into other senior centers, and also offering into the greater community options as well. We've recently acquired the use of one of the county's lift buses, accessible wheelchair lift buses, and so we have been able to start doing more community outreach. And Rich is going to talk in a minute with you about some of the statistics that we can show an increase on our community services in that direction. So that being said, this position would support additional services that we're going to be offering into the community, and we have the funding available through our reimbursements with DDA at this time to fully fund this position.
All right, we had the funding available right now. What happens if in the future, I know it's a contractual position, but so in the future, I'm guessing this position is needed, with the funding's not available, the position just goes away? What are we gonna do?
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the way DDA funds programs, the funding is attached to the individual. So if this funding were to go away, that would mean that the individual has chosen to go to another program or is no longer receiving services through the DDA. If that were the case, then the number of folks that we're serving would decrease, hence the number of staff.
Okay.
And also to touch on that, in the past 2 years, we have started running a waiting list for our program. We don't advertise our program, we don't market it publicly. I mean, it's on our website, but we don't market for individuals to come into our program because we always have people knocking at our door to come in. Right now we have a waiting list of 4 individuals, which is as high as it's been most recently, but we've also had other DDA providers in the region asking us if we were going to expand our program offerings so that we could have more individuals in our program. And so in the future, we may look to expand and come back before you to increase from 26 individuals to 30 over the next year, but that's something we're still looking at to make a determination. So, but if someone leaves our program, excuse me, there's always another opportunity to bring someone else into the program, so that funding will continue. And we've consistently had higher attendance over the past 2 years than we have previously.
So as long as we have the need, the funding's going to continue coming in.
Correct.
Yeah, as far as we know. I mean, we haven't heard that yet.
Things could happen, but
Right.
that's the way it's set up.
Right.
Okay.
But you're supporting the community without marketing the services, and you already have a wait list. Have you done any thoughts or analysis on, if you did market it, what would, the results be? And then instead of just asking for, one person, you'd be asking for 3. I mean, again, this is that act-react, approach. And I don't know if that's where you want to go with this or not, but, if it's a valued service that we're dealing with our community and we're not marketing it, but we know it's a valued service, then why not market it to find out what the real needs are? I mean, does that make sense?
Sure, and we talk about that, and
Yeah.
I think that would be a determination, and we'd have to talk more with all of you as to how we want to expand the program.
Right.
I think certainly there is opportunity for expansion. We talk about that internally all the time, but it's the question of, do we want to make that move? So we certainly do discuss that.
I mean, this is free money right now. It's coming out of the state, so it's no cost to the county. But having that conversation with the state, hey, if we did market it and we had this requirement of 2 additional, would the state be able to, or would they be willing to, under, the DDA fund the additional manpower? So, okay.
Yeah, and it's also a capacity issue right now at the senior center. As far as space, which is why we've been talking about and discussing the idea of expanding into other centers of the county.
Okay.
Rich, did you want to talk a little bit about the statistics in our program in general?
Well, good morning. With the push from the Developmental Disabilities Administration to have folks get into the community as much as they can, and this is coming from actually Medicaid, pushing the states to have people out in the community as much as possible. When in calendar year 2016, we did approximately 35 trips into the community. This calendar year 2018, beginning on January 1st, we've done 117 in 224 days. So over half the days that we're open, we've got people out, reaching out in the community. And those trips are, they go from going to the bowling alley to dropping off boxes at the water treatment plant and the Tawnytown Senior Center to collect food for the needy. We have one person who's volunteering to organize that and has actually delivered food to the Westminster Rescue Mission on several occasions. He was recognized for that. So it kind of goes to show that, even as folks get older and they have the disability, they still want to be active in the community. And so this, we're trying to support that as best we can. Having an extra staff will make that, we'll be better at it. We'll be out there more often. And that's our intent.
Okay. Any questions? I guess we could use a motion then.
Okay, I'll move for the Board of Commissioners approve the request for an additional 18-hour per week senior inclusion program aide position.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we're moving to a Carroll County unpaved roads. I guess we're getting an update? Doesn't say on here. Briefing, okay. Jeff Castaway, Doug Brown, Deb Butler, is she still here? No. Jim Cook? All right. Do you want to handle this one, Commissioner? Just kidding. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sales pitch.
Good morning, thank you.
I don't find any of this hilarious at all.
She started.
We do.
This is one of my biggest headaches. And as you see, everyone surrounding me is laughing about it. I got another call this morning.
Laughing with you.
We'll see what we can do to help. That's what we're here for. All right, good morning, Commissioners. Public Works is here today for a briefing discussion regarding unpaved roads. At the request of Commissioner Wance, we put together a presentation with our Public Works professionals to provide the new and returning board members with an updated maintenance and cost challenges for our unpaved roads. Today we will review our current unpaved road inventory, discuss land easement challenges, current maintenance practices, and other challenges associated with unpaved and newly paved roadways. So let me start by introducing our presenters today. Jeff Castaway, Director of Public Works. Next to me is our Acting Deputy Director of Public Works, Doug Brown. Good morning. Bureau Chief of Roads, Jim Cook. And our Roads Administrative Supervisor, Eric Silverman. Deb Butler was going to be here today. She had a prior commitment, so she apologized. She cannot be in attendance today, but she provided a lot of the data that we'll be presenting today, and we thank her for that. So let's start by looking at the overall county map, outlining our unpaved roads today in our county. As you will see, the unpaved roads are highlighted in blue, and we provided the commissioners with district-specific maps in your packet for easier viewing. I know your screens are a little on the small side, but you can also look in your packets for your surrounding areas. Give you a moment to digest. All right, our next slide shows the mileage of unpaved roads and total maintained roads per district. The most notable numbers to discuss: District 1 with 36.7 miles of unpaved roads, and District 4 with 10.4 miles. Just as some comparisons, we have 977 total miles of roadways here in the county. 57.6 miles of that is unpaved, or 5.9%. It also is worth noting 30 miles of those roadways are inadequate, or what we call inadequate geometry, which is defined as a road with steep hills, width problems, sharp curves, drainage problems, and environmental impacts. We have 28 of those miles are adequate, or what we call acceptable geometry. It is defined as relatively straight roads with some of the same problems as inadequate geometry, but with less obstacles that increase our need for large land acquisitions. One of our main drivers as it comes to the maintenance.
Can I ask you a question before you move on? Out of that total mileage of unpaved roads, do you have any idea of how many miles that people do not want the roads paved? Because there are people that live on unpaved roads that don't want them paved. Do we have an idea of what that is?
We don't today. I mean, we have never really gone out and taken a formal survey. We will go into for you a little bit, and I know Commissioner Wance has constituents in his area that I believe husband and wife differ on whether we pave or don't pave the road. So it can be that dramatic within one household.
Okay, I was just curious if you had.
Sure.
Okay.
So one of our main drivers as it comes to maintenance or paving of our unpaved, or even for the matter, our currently paved roads, is the lack of ownership of the roadways. Let me pass this along to Doug to provide you the details of our easement challenges.
So good morning again, Commissioners. And first, I want to thank all of you and Commissioner Wance for bringing this up. Certainly, unpaved roads, for those of you that have been here know that we do often get calls on them. They can be a challenge, but when handled correctly, they are very efficient and effective if we maintain them properly. One of the biggest things that we would like to present to you for understanding and for our constituents at home is that many of the roads, in fact 68%, give or take a few, within Carroll County are roads that rest on what are known as prescriptive easements.
That's total roads, not just 68%.
68% of total roads, yes, thank you. And that's whether they are currently paved or unpaved. 68% of our total roads rest on prescriptive easements. Now, I'm not going to read the definition, but essentially what that means for our viewers is that we have the ability through this legal prescriptive easement to go out and maintain what we have, but other than the width of the road, we can't do anything because typically, not typically, legally, what's underneath that road that we drive on is owned by someone else. Typically either a single property owner or multiple property owners, depending upon where the road is located. And a good example to this is, as Carroll County has grown over the years, many of our roads have become what used to be at one time a farm lane, driving back to this person's house, another person's house, and subsequently that prescriptive easement has grown because what you'll see in there is that the land has to be open, continuous, and exclusive under a certain statutory period, which oftentimes is 20 years if it was used for that period, and then it becomes a prescriptive easement road, which legally allows us to keep those roads open, allows us to maintain those roads, but only again in what we own. So again, 68% of that. Now what I've done is took, in the next slide you'll see, and this is a snapshot of this week of a couple of unpaved roads that we have in the county. I don't know what district they reside in, Commissioner Wance, maybe? Maybe Commissioner Wance's district.
Good chance.
I love the first picture. That's one of our good ones.
So what I've done here for you is I ask you now to go with me and those at home and imagine that you can see this is one of our county roads supervisors' pickup trucks that is driving on a road. That's Babylon Road. And Babylon Road, as you can see, is a prescriptive easement road. And at this point in time in the road, you would have difficulty even parking your vehicle and opening your doors and getting out. Now imagine that this is the same road that we try to maintain. We use a grader. In the wintertime, we have to plow snow. And through all of our cycles of maintenance, which we'll go through here later, we still do. But the fact is, a prescriptive easement road, our only legal right and ability is to deal with exactly what you see right there in front of you right now. That's what we do. And we try to explain this, and I find that, and you all probably do as well, once we educate our customers and our employers, which is every taxpayer we have in the county, and that's who we work for. And once I have a chance to talk to them and show them a few of these pictures and give them the understanding of, here's how it really is. We don't own that, Farmer X does, or property owner Y does, but we do maintain it. That's what gives it to you. The other one that I bring up is Six's Bridge, because I think it's important, and you'll find as we come into acceptable and unacceptable geometry, Six's Bridge and what you're looking at there from a driving perspective is what we would consider to be unacceptable geometry, meaning that you clearly can't see what's coming at you ahead. So that particular road, in order for us to do something with it, other than just pave it, would require us coming to you, and then likely a significant investment in funds if the property owner was agreeable in land acquisition, for us to be able to do anything to take corrective action other than just simply going over and paving it, which will bring its own challenges. So those are some things, and that's a little bit on prescriptive easement. If you don't have any questions on that, I'd like to turn it over now to our Roads Bureau Chief. He's going to talk a bit to you about what we already do on an annual basis to maintain our county roads.
Good morning.
Morning.
We perform some annual maintenance practices. It's broken down into seasons. Winter, we do snow removal, and then we apply anti-skid for traction after we're done with the plowing. In the spring, we do grading and shaping and address the shoulders as necessary, and then we add aggregate if we need it. We have pipe culverts on those roads that need to be cleaned and sometimes need to be replaced, so we do that also. We also treat it with a calcium chloride, which is a dust control and a hardener. And then summertime we do a roadside mowing, which is 2 or 3 times a year, with weed control around all the traffic barriers. Sometimes it's weed eating and that kind of stuff. So then we also do a calcium chloride treatment again, and that's complaint driven in the summertime. So that's for dust control and hardening also. In the fall, we also do a grading also for dust control and maintenance and reshaping and addressing the shoulders. It's kind of similar to what we do in the spring, and that is kind of a typical winter time. It takes care of the potholes and that kind of thing. So we also do that, and then we spread aggregate as we need it there also. We also do the same thing there as with the calcium chloride and for the dust control and hardening of the roads there also.
How has that changed this year?
This year was a little bit, for potholes it was a little bit, we still had to maintain that, but we didn't have quite as much dust control because of the wetness. So, but we still had to spread it for the hardening of it. So it was.
Yeah, we've had a significant increase, and we could go over dollar-wise in what it's cost us to maintain roads, but that's been in general has increased by the last estimate I looked at. I think we were about $350,000 over what the last annual year had cost, and of course we're not done. That's going back, adding stone, moving stone, filling potholes. We've had some as recent as last week that after that rainstorm, we had a person that could stand in one that was about knee high. So I mean, these are maintenance issues when you deal with the massive rain that we've had, and certainly everybody knows now this has been the most historic rainfall year on record. So we certainly have dealt with that. And also, while Jim had spoken to the culverts, just for particularly our new commissioners, I know we were before you last week, and if you want to speak, Eric, just to a little bit about our culvert rehabilitation program and what we do.
I guess last week there was one out for Hawks Hill that we came to. It's full circumference with road wire inside of it, and it's rebuilding the whole liner. It's a structural repair. This year, I think we've done six or seven other ones where just lining the bottom. You probably recall those, but they happen all the time.
Right. So again, you all, through your efforts, you spend money, county tax dollars, a good amount to maintain them, and we try to do it as cost effective as possible through rehabilitation of the pipe rather than going in and ripping the whole thing out. We hire companies that come in and actually will weld the pipe, add concrete to it, and they make it structurally sound again. So that was it. Thank you, Eric, Jim.
So next you're going to see on your presentation is a list of both split out by adequate and inadequate roadways. I know this is very difficult to see, and we can get you, the commissioners, a larger version of this for viewing. But as you'll see, at today's estimates, you'd be looking at about $5–6 million for just adequate roadways to be improved, and over $61 million for inadequate roads to be improved. Now, this does not include land acquisition or stormwater management. This is just to widen the road and what the cost of materials would be in order to make that, to get it to an adequate drivable surface equal to our current standards for roadways.
Does that include, like the one you show with the curve that you couldn't see around and so forth, does that include doing something about that?
It would not. Well, first off, you're going to find that on the inadequate side. And that would be what the director spoke to, the point of we'd have to acquire land if they were willing to.
I was wondering if that was included in the price.
That is not included in that price. So any land acquisition would be above and beyond what you see, because that's one thing that we can't put a number on right now until we get into specifics. We actually have, much like you are familiar with use and common driveways, gravel roads are similar in that so many properties touch or go under a current prescriptive easement that it takes mounds of research to find out who owns what piece of the road, depending upon what you were going to develop.
In a lot of our roadways, both either paved or unpaved, you'll find that the easement may be the center of the roadway. So there's a property to the right, comes to the center of the road, property to the left comes to the center of the road. And again, that's a challenge that we face when we're looking at multiple projects, throughout the entire county.
So I see this list alphabetical, and I expect the answer is yes. You do have a priority list of these roads. Which ones are the higher priorities for whichever reasons they may be? Have you gone through prioritization of this list?
We have additional calculations and studies that we've done in the past that will break this down to a number of trips on a roadway. So how many vehicles are traveling on an individual roadway, what the cost per trip would be for an individual roadway. We could have a couple miles of roadway of inadequate geometry that has 3 houses on it. Well, the cost of that roadway could be, X number of dollars, and there's only 10 people traveling on that roadway. So we can prioritize it by the cost of the road, prioritize it by number of trips, cost per trip, but we don't have any specific of, this is a road that's continuously giving us concerns and issues. Part of one of the requests, and I'll go into a little later on, is some kind of what are we doing next, of just trying to take it, find that place in between a gravel road and paved of things that we can do. We've tried a few things in the past that, we experiment and they work for a while, but we'll experiment.
So I think for me what would be value is understanding how you're prioritizing the roads and listing whatever values you're using to prioritize that list. So whether it's throughput, vehicle traffic, but to me it's what's the community saying? Which roads are highlighted most by the community, and then which ones are broken down by priority? Because right now for me, I'm just seeing an alphabetical list that doesn't give me the value. You know.
Right.
And it is we
spend some time with me, and I'll
absolutely.
I'll tell you what the community
and I hear you, and absolutely right. I want to go with you to which roads are those that are high priority from within your community. It says this road is just out of control and needs to be worked on, and this would be my #1 priority within that neighborhood or that community.
No, we can definitely give you a couple scenarios of the way we've analyzed the data for the commissioners to look at during this budget season, because then it ultimately comes down to what is available for funding. It depends on the priorities of, of the funding in, in different areas.
When you say cost to upgrade, what do you mean by upgrade? You're not taking these roads and paving them.
That the cost, as it is to upgrade a road right now, that the cost that you see reflected on this spreadsheet is for paving only. That was an asphalt.
Oh, so this is the cost of what it costs to pave.
But that's asphalt only.
Okay,
That's not, right, that's not total
Okay.
cost. That would be asphalt only, not total cost for land acquisition, because, again, we don't know that number.
And as you widen roadways, you get into the concern, we have some areas, as you widen roadways, we get into concerns of stormwater management. You also have some of these areas that are in, wetland areas or right up against streams. And if you're next to a stream, we may not, while today we can maybe add onto the roadway, but other restrictions and requirements may be put against us, through Maryland Department of the Environment to say when we go to construct this roadway, we have to follow the certain specifications. May require a new bridge, widening of a bridge, or a new bridge to be put in as we widen the roadway, so it's not just a single lane bridge, which then is stream restrictions, et cetera, permits. So we have these different obstacles that we continue to struggle with as we go through on these individual properties.
Yeah. And we want to, certainly our presentation before, even though we obviously have worked with Commissioner Wance a lot, our whole goal here is for you to tell us. We don't just inadvertently take staff time without your direction. If it's something that you all want and you want us to head in a certain direction with the gravel roads, then that would be, at that point, we'll take it, we'll do your charge and move off into that direction. And that's certainly why we're giving you this brief today, to see where you want us to be, moving forward in your.
And as a quick comparison, just some information we were able to pull up. Frederick County still currently has 103 miles of gravel roads. Hartford County has 71 miles of gravel roads. And also speak, and I've spoken with many people, counterparts all throughout the country, and we're not unique with still having gravel roads in our systems. We have some counties that actually have more gravel roads than they have paved roads, in the western part of the United States.
No, we're not, but, still it doesn't help the community here that wants.
Absolutely, fully agree.
It's again, this is to me, a great step in the right direction of understanding the problem.
Right.
But in further defining the problem, we have to come up with, again, that priority list of, hey, these are the top handful of roads. And I agree with Commissioner Wance, for somebody like me, going into his community and learning more about that, I think is also the next step. But, it's comparison to other counties and states, I appreciate it.
No,
but, what's defined in front of us is a community that is challenged because they don't have paved roads, or they have, an issue in front of them. That's what I'm looking at.
Some of the concerns would be terrain also. If you've got a downhill grade where it washes harder than others, and that's the kind of things that you come into contact with. So
I would like to reemphasize Commissioner Rothstein's position that we do definitely need to have some sort of prioritization formula on this, whether it's public safety or the costs of maintaining it.
Gotcha.
For me, the only real complaint I've heard out of constituents in District 4 is the lack of school buses on the roads, on the gravel roads. Prior to me running, I had no idea they couldn't ride on it. So I don't know about the other commissioners, what they've heard out of their constituency, but that's the only issue I've heard out of my constituency.
Go ahead.
We have that, and we also have that problem on some of our paved roads and some of even our newer developments, where road width or number of homes or the ability to safely turn around, that is a concern we have both on some paved and unpaved roadways. But yes, I
But you brought it up very clearly at the beginning. Some of these roads are paved cow paths that have been used for years, and all of a sudden they just paved it.
They are.
And they just go everywhere. To straighten that out will cost a fortune.
Commissioner, to your point with the school board also, we do work with them as carefully as we can. But the director's right in that it is based on their policy. They have certain policies of what they will and will not do with the school bus. And not always is it just based on gravel, but it is also based on width of the road. Can they turn the bus around? Is there any location? And that certainly would be a discussion that we could have. If there was any happy medium, we can do that, as well as just going back to respond. We will get that prioritized list. We do have other factors, including down to, you know, but it's very, if you live on the road, the reason it's not in your study today, we have down to cost per car to travel the road. But if it's your road, it really wouldn't matter what it costs, whether you're 1 or 100. You know what I mean? It's your road and it's your issue, and that's what you all hear about. So we can get those for you. We can prioritize that list in that nature. And we can also add to that, what roads are we having the most problems with? You know, that I think would be a critical one. As Jim said, what's washing out the most? Where are we at? What can we do? And those types of things.
And to add on to that is, you know, you do have some residents that, you know, in the county that have made that decision years ago to live on a gravel road because they want to live on a gravel road, and that question did come up. And as an example, is back in December 14, 2014, Public Works actually came in front of the board to return $225,000 to be prioritized from Young Road to Stony Lane Road because we started paving Young Road, and then the residents on the other another half of the roadway stopped the project and said, we want to live on a gravel road, we want to remain living on a gravel road, stop paving. So we reprioritized funds at that time on Young Road. So this just gives an example of, and again, as we're looking at the residents of who wants it paved, who doesn't, you know, that was an example 4 years ago at the beginning of the last board is when that, you know, we ran into that same situation.
I wonder if we could survey the residents on these roads in some way and see if they want it or not. This is Carroll County, and some people really love their dirt roads.
Yes.
Yeah, but I would hold off on the survey kind of thing until we determined that road was needed for upgrade. Because there's no use surveying roads that we're not planning to fix right now.
I mean, as they come up.
Yeah,
As they come up,
yeah.
Okay.
Is there either a history or any of these roads that have been prone to more accidents and challenges for drivers, whether, you know, they're almost like catastrophic accidents, but you know, you're going to have fender benders everywhere. But
so I think not necessarily so much accidents, but your second point,
right,
challenges for drivers all the time.
Yeah,
I'm sure Commissioner Wance can probably allude. The other commissioners that have gravel roads will tell you, particularly this year, potholes, ruts, right, recurring issues have been constant challenges, and it's not uncommon. And to Commissioner Boucher's point, we have heard. I get calls from constituents who have school children that say the bus won't come pick up my child, you know, what can you do? Now, I've explained to many of them how the process works, that the school board makes a decision, I go into the whole prescriptive easement. Most of them understand at that point. Right. Doesn't fix their issue, right, but at least it kind of explains to them. So yeah, to your point, certainly, we face challenges, we get calls about that all the time, and that could go into our priority list for you about what roads we get most of those
exactly
on. Sure.
Okay, thanks.
So our next slide here, we'll talk about our recent and planned projects. Over the previous 3 fiscal years, $5 million has been allocated for improving our gravel roads. The list is in the back of your packet for further viewing. A couple of the larger projects I mentioned is John Pickett, Flickinger, and Roop Roads. These roads make up half the money allocated over the three previous years. No funds were allocated in FY19, but the Bureau of Roads and Engineering is working to utilize some savings from some ongoing projects to sit back and try to fill in some areas of our current roadways in Old Cump Station and Winters Church roads, of areas of the roadway that's not complete. And let me pass this over to Eric just to give a little bit more detail on those 2 roadways.
So these 2 roads will be up before you later at a later time. Each of these roads are paving a small section in between 2 roads that have already been paved. So Old Cump Station is about 500 feet long. It's stone. So I also send equipment up there just to take care of that stone road for asphalt maintenance and gravel. That's why we're paving that one. It'll be paved with 3.5 inches and 1.5 inches of asphalt. It'll be 16 feet wide when we're done. And it's similar with Winters Church Road. That one's about 3,800 feet long with 7/10. Same thing. It's in between 2 sections of road that have already been paved. We're just closing the gap. The same thing with 3.5 and 1.5 inches of asphalt. 16 feet
right.
wide.
If asphalt costs stay at the low levels that they are today, you know, we always estimate some escalation because of, you know, for equipment costs, for fuel, and for asphalt material, for asphalt. And if we have that savings, which, if everything stays the way it is, we have these on the list this year to be able to hopefully utilize some of that savings. But again, we'll have to come to the commissioners for approval to allocate those funds to that project.
I might add that this price you see here is just for asphalt material. It's not including labor and equipment. If the price seems skewed, that's why it's so cheap.
Because we provide our own. That'll be done by county roads to close it. This again, and I think it's important, and most of you have already commented to that, but these guys out here, when we work to go to roads, and all the credits to them, they look to scrimp every penny that they can, take it and close little gaps like this, where you might have had a few dollars that went somewhere else. They'll take those few dollars, save them through this budget year, buy the asphalt, and go close those gaps on those roads that are only 0.2 miles. Again, might not seem important to you, if you're not driving it. But if it's at that 0.2 miles you're hitting every day, hey, that's going to be a great thing when it's closed up.
Right. But also keep in mind, if the road today is currently 12 feet in width, that is what we will be paving is 12 feet. Because again, that's all that we own. And it'll match up to the other paved sections of the roadway. Mount Ventus one is a perfect example. It's 10 feet wide, 8 to 10 feet wide, and that portion, and that was paved years ago. That was just paved over the last couple of years, and the road today still is 8 to 10 feet wide when it's paved.
Right. So there's also another thing to add there. When you're in the snow removal part of it, the gravel roads are the last thing to get maintained because we have to add an anti-skid, which then you have to empty the salt out of the trucks and then add it to those trucks. So then that is the last thing that gets done. So if you have a road like Winter's Church or Comp Station that you have a little piece, that means you can plow everything except for those little pieces, and then you have to come back to that. So it's kind of a cost to maintaining that part of it, like going back and forth that way.
It's inefficient.
Inefficient, yes, it is. It's very inefficient.
So we'll go on now and closing it out here for you. Other considerations, again, what you hear, and we know it, and we are putting it up just to talk about, but gravel roads, many people will talk to us and talk to you specifically, and everybody that works with you, about potholes and washouts. That's been popular this year. Often you'll hear complaints from those who deal with the dust. We have drainage concerns, and those who get gravel or other things, et cetera, on their private property. Conversely, asphalt complaints. We often get calls when a road has asphalt put on it. First calls we get are people are speeding, traffic has increased, and you didn't do anything for our road. You've changed the drainage. If you put asphalt, even though both roads are considered hard, right? If you go over to our friends in resource management, both are considered impervious surfaces. We don't get any points for one or the other. And they would say that the drainage changed, and again. And then finally, we also have heard, and in fact, I personally, the last road that we did, the gentleman called me up and said, I always wanted to live on a gravel road. I never wanted it paved. You've now paved my road. I don't like it. And believe me, he has in turn complained many, many times, and because not every resident wants his or her road paved, and we do get that. You all get that. Again, I'm not repeating that for you all. I know you already get it. This is for our customers out there that are watching. And then finally, that third one that says, I don't want to live on the gravel road. When you get those kinds of concerns, that triggers something else, because we take every complaint seriously. So as soon as someone says people are now speeding on my road, these are now dangerous turns, you've turned a gravel road into a speedway, someone's going to hit a tree, what do we have to do? It's at that point that we have to engage staff. Our traffic engineer goes out, takes a quick look. Is this a road that I can do myself? Do I have time, or do I have to get a contractor in to look at it? Oftentimes we have to get a contractor in, then we have to do either additional road painting that we didn't do before, additional signage out on the roads, guardrail at times. And so just looking at the last 3 roads, I asked our traffic engineer to kind of give us a piece. What have we done on the last 3 roads that we paved? And that ranges anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 in additional signage, guardrail, staff time, contractors, once we pave a road, put paving on it.
And then one last point I want to bring up, and one of the questions that Commissioner Wance had also brought up is, what are we doing next? There's no smoking gun out there. Speaking with my counterparts across the country, there's no easy fix. It's almost like the similar concern that we have with de-icing. Salt is it. We can look at all the different options that are out there, but nothing gets it to where everybody will, nothing gets a road back to clear than using road salt. That comes with all of its concerns and issues. Same thing with our gravel roads. There's no easy way to sit back and to improve it. But some things that we are working on here at the county is we're going to be working with our local contractors and consultants to look at soil cement mixtures with millings to come up with a more stable, higher bearing capacity, subgrade material that'll be less, more resistant to scouring during rain events, and also hold up to, because again, we have a variety of equipment and vehicles. While some areas might have heavy vehicle traffic, some of them you have tractors, you have hay bales hay being delivered in and out, or equipment, materials, livestock, and those heavier loads can really break down a roadway if it's not properly constructed. And those are things that we see when we start seeing rutting in a lot of our roads. Sometimes it's our gravel roads that have a lot of farms on them. But we are looking to work with our consultants, again, with the high maintenance costs this past year because of the rain events, just as we have your roads, as we have in solid waste, and we're going to have in some of our other bureaus. We've had to expend a lot of extra money because of the excessive amount of rain that came in this year. That's going to limit our ability to work on some of these projects and these experimental projects. So we hope that if things stabilize, stay stable for the remainder of the year, we'll have some funds. But if not, it looks like probably FY20. And I'm all for trying it out in a couple of these roadways, experimenting. If they hold up over some time and we're not seeing excessive rutting or washouts or scouring from the rain events, then we can come back and maybe do a chip seal to the surface. Again, when we start doing the chip seal, now it's perceived as paving. Now people start exceeding their speed, their current speeds. Now we're going to get it back into. Now we go back to the last point that Doug brought up. Now we have speeds. Now we have signage. We have other studies and things we're going to have to look at. But again, that's what we are looking at. I mean, we're not sitting idle with this. Roads has the marching orders from us to go ahead and experiment and try these. Try some different things, because who knows? We may find that smoking gun. With that, we'd like to open this up for any other questions that the board has or comments.
Is there any state assistance with any of this grant? Anything from the state?
The only funding that we have currently coming from the state is, our highway user funds. And again, as we know, those were tens of millions of dollars years ago, and now we're at, I think we got up to 2 this year.
Yeah.
So we
already cut by like 90%. So.
Have we ever asked for anything additional?
We always ask. We do that during our road show with State Highway. We continue to ask for additional funds. But again, if there's limited funding that's available, or it depends again on the priority projects, trying to get all the state highway, bridges and bridge pride. A lot of the, again, everybody talks about the bridges that are aged in our state and within our county. We're trying to get those replaced, again, to keep everybody safe on the roadways.
Is this something we ask our delegation to?
We ask about highway user revenues every
Yeah,
year.
but highway use revenues, but just additional to that to help with dirt, gravel roads. I don't know, I know Commissioner Wance probably has been, but did we actually ask him to pursue additional funding for this?
I don't believe we've ever asked, or at least not in my tenure, for specifically with regard to gravel roads. We certainly partner with the state on many projects to move them forward. County puts up some money, then state puts out some money. The most recent example is Gillis Falls in 27. And that's the way we tend to get sort of projects moved up on the state's priority list, and get sort of more from them.
Any other questions or comments?
I'll make a couple comments.
Very surprising.
Keep them brief.
So
We do want to eat lunch today.
Yeah, I know. So everybody knows by now, hopefully my 2 colleagues see it too with the brief little presentation we had here today, that this continues to be an issue for me. With the addition of the fact that I think the percentage is about the same of folks that don't have internet in my district and the ones that live on gravel roads. So it might be the same people. But first of all, I want to applaud the boots on the ground.
Thank you.
Because those guys out there and gals, they're the first line of defense when someone comes up and says, what are y'all doing? And I've talked to quite a few of the supervisors, especially in my district, that have been confronted by some very interesting people over the years. So I want to applaud those guys and the way in which they handle that. It wasn't too many moons ago when we had a couple folks challenged by someone at gunpoint.
Yes, we did.
So this, while we laugh about it, and I didn't mean to be disrespectful, this is serious.
Yes.
And it can be very, very serious. And that particular incident was, I stood there with my mouth open. While we all know that reality, we can't pave these roads, we know that. But I continue to press staff to try to find that magic fix or something that's on the horizon that somebody's using somewhere that would alleviate going back every other week and filling potholes. And then the grader comes through. And that's the biggest question that I get. And you guys all know this.
Yep.
Why is there a grader on my road again? You guys were just here. And when you're grading, what you put down in the potholes before, now you're grading it off on the side of the road because the grader's pushing all that. So I get that all the time. And I keep saying there's got to be a better way to do this. And then perhaps if we found that magic fix, the folks that do live on there that either do want to live or don't want to live on them would be a little bit more at ease with the fact that they're there. So again, I want to applaud all of you that are doing this, but especially those folks that are out there day in and day out. And you know, when the snow starts, of course, this year you didn't put on here mud. We had that. I mean, I had a guy stuck
you want some?
I had a guy stuck in a pothole on Green Meadow about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Stuck, coming out of his house.
So-
I mean, you know, think about that. So it's a serious issue. It's something we can't throw money at. Let's be clear. But it's something that outside of the box thinking, I think, and you guys are attempting to do that, and I appreciate that. Will get us to a place where it would be, you know, reasonable moving forward. So thank you for this. Gives us a start. Gives the our two new colleagues a chance to see what we're dealing with here, and it is serious. And I say this a lot, and I told you guys this too. When I was up in Virginia, the Harpers Ferry area,
Yes.
there's $350,000, $400,000 homes on gravel roads up there, and if you get off those gravel roads, the ditches that are there, you can't see the car when it gets in them because it's that low. So those folks are functioning up there. I don't know how many complaints they get,
Right.
but we get them, and I think it's because of the practices that we've been doing in the past. That's why I keep saying there's got to be something better.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that, I really do, and we'll continue to work on this. And I don't know what,
Yeah, we're looking at some
fiscally, I don't know what we can do, but
we will get our action. I've taken down as an action item, and we'll get to you as I do at times. All of you will get that prioritized list. You'll see some different factors in there for your purview, and then certainly if you'd like to have us back at that point to discuss, or you'd like us to work on other things, and do so. But I have got that down here, and you will get that by email within the next week or so. I know you've got a lot of information coming at you, but that'll be that. And I do want to echo that these guys, they so appreciate the guys and gals, because you're absolutely right. You know, people often look at first responders. You and I both coming from the same backgrounds have done so. These are our first responders. When a tree goes down, when the ice hits the road, when anything happens, guess who the first people are that are out there? That's them. And they're out there each and every day, snow, rain, sleet, it doesn't matter. They're doing it, and you don't know, and you do, how far that goes that we recognize them. Thank you very much for doing
so,
that.
well, that's, you know.
Just one comment, talking about funding, about state funding. There may not be state funding for this specific issue. However, if we address funding for other road issues, that can take some of that money from the
Yes.
county and then apply it to there. So the intent here is, what is the vision that we have that priority list is really gonna help, at least me, what's the vision where we wanna go?
Sure.
And then where are the different resources, the funding streams, to get us to where we wanna go? It may not be state monies for this specific problem, but if we can relax some of the other funds from another problem, we can then apply it, so,
Sure.
you know, that's a good point.
And if you have any
It was a good
friends that
point,
want to
though.
donate that land versus just paying for it.
That first photo on there,
People actually.
You know the guy?
We're laughing, but people actually do donate land to the county.
Yes, they do.
For
Right.
these purposes, for the fire protection,
Ponds, tanks.
tanks,
Right.
purposes. We have wonderful citizens
Yes.
who do
Yeah.
that kind of
Yes.
thing all
Great
the
point.
time, understanding that it is to the benefit of the county.
Yes,
and
they
all
do.
that stuff. If you, I mean,
Right.
not expecting it to solve this particular problem.
Right, but they're-
Just want to point that out.
Right, they'd rather be driving on a road where they don't have to pull onto somebody's front lawn
Right.
in order for another vehicle to go by, because that's the next call that we get, is now somebody's driving on my front lawn.
Well, thank you, I appreciate it. I've even suggested that we have some sort of a work session where we can sit around and roll up our sleeves and go down through each road a little bit more specifically than what you can in this kind of a setting.
Would you
So
all-
maybe that would be something too that would be beneficial.
Would you like us to schedule?
I mean, I don't know, what do you got? That, and again, it would just be a work session or whatever specifically for that reason, to go right down through each road, and you could see what we've spent on it the last, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years or whatever, and, what we could do to mitigate return trips to it or something. I don't know, if that's beneficial to you guys, that's kind of what I thought maybe we could do in the future.
And one of the points that we didn't, I don't think we hit on, just to mention, is we did a calculation, again, this is this is based on some numbers a couple years ago, because again, our boots on the ground are typically on the ground and not in our office, running Excel spreadsheets. But what we found is it's about $8,500 per lane, per road mile to maintain, plus or minus $500 whether it's a paved road or a gravel road. They're within $500 of themselves for maintenance on a yearly basis. Might be different materials, you might be talking calcium chloride versus salt versus, even the number of times that we're out there paving plowing. Where the costs come in is the asphalt. And then you sit back and do a mill and fill after so many years, then you do surface treatment, then you do another mill and fill, and over a 20, 25-year period, you actually wind up spending more money on that road that you've just now hardened. The long-term, that asset and that ongoing cost now has to be recognized and put into the budget ongoing from that point on, because that is now in that pavement inventory.
Well, that would be the sort of thing, Jeff, that we could insert into maybe that work session.
Yep.
Okay, if you did this, then it would mean this.
Moving
To get a
along,
better
Jeff.
understanding of, each,
Right.
and go down through each road.
You got it.
I think it's a great suggestion, because honestly, it's, it's resource, time, people, and money, and
Right.
we have to be willing to put our time towards this. This is a great first step for me, listening, understanding kind of where we're at, but now it's really diving into the learning process and getting, to where we want to go next. And I think we're not going to get there today. Having a follow-on session makes a lot of sense to me, so I appreciate that suggestion.
Sounds great.
Well, thank you all for coming up. I appreciate the report. I do think we need that priority list, so if we have extra money, and we may one day, we can look at which roads really we should hit first.
And
I
I'll be
think
in
that's
front of
very
you soon
important.
on all of our buildings, building maintenance, parking lots.
Oh, thanks.
Underground piping, so just to add a little bit more flavor.
It's all good news, thanks.
Add a little more flavor.
Wait a minute, there's something else other than gravel roads?
Thank you very much.
Thank
I'd
you
like
all.
to thank you for the map that shows me what roads to avoid on my motorcycle.
There you go.
All right, we're going to move on to minutes. I have a question on the minutes that we're about to approve. Commissioner Weaver and I are the only two that can approve them. Is that okay? There's only two commissioners.
Actually, that's not a rule. I mean,
Okay.
all 5 of you, the White Glass Board did that when they were absent. I think the expectation of yourselves should be that you watch or familiarize yourself with what happened when you weren't here.
I mean, yes.
And therefore you feel comfortable saying that,
Okay.
yes, this is what occurred.
All right, then we'll move on to minutes. We have the minutes of Thursday, November 29th at 10 a.m. I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second them. Boy, they're comprehensive, too.
Yeah, I know, it's the most comprehensive minutes I've seen in a while. Anyway, all those in favor? Aye.
And I'll abstain
And
because
one
I wasn't
abstention.
here.
Okay. Then I'll move on to the minutes of Thursday, November 29th at 1 PM. I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll abstain because
All
I
right.
wasn't here.
Thank you. Move on to agendas.
You're proven if you're not here.
Week 1. We just talked about that.
I don't-
Anyway, week 1. And actually, not week 1, it just says week 1 in my
I would
book.
suggest- It doesn't matter.
But it's okay, it's good. Monday, December 10th, 10 a.m., Mako immersion training with Annapolis Commissioners Boucher and Rothstein. At 5 o'clock, tree lighting ceremony in front of the county office building, Commissioners Frazier, Wance, Weaver, Boucher, and Rothstein. On Tuesday, December 11th, at 8:30 a.m., Circle of Caring Committee meeting in Westminster, Commissioner Frazier, and at 7 o'clock, Ag Center Board meeting in Westminster, Commissioner Frazier. Wednesday, December 12th, 9:30 a.m., Carroll County Farm Museum Advisory Board meeting in Westminster, Commissioner Weaver.
Well, that'll be changed here, I think, right?
What's that?
Oh,
Mike,
Didn't I volunteer for that?
both go?
Yeah, I'll go with you.
we'll change the names to.
Okay.
protect the kids,
Okay.
so to speak.
Names
You
may
broke
be
me into it.
changed as we went over boards and closed this morning. So names may be changed, but some commissioner will be there at these meetings. At 2 o'clock, we have an Economic Alliance of Greater Baltimore meeting, Board of Directors meeting in Baltimore. Some commissioner will be there.
Yeah.
And at 3 o'clock, we have a Chamber Holiday Connection in Tawnytown with Commissioner Wance. I'm pretty sure he'll be the one going there. At 3:30, Governor's Workforce Development Board meeting in Hanover with Commissioner Rothstein. At 5 o'clock, Board of Education Board meeting in Westminster. Some commissioner will be there.
I'll be there.
Commissioner Weaver will be there. At 5:30, Fort Meade Alliance President's Reception in Hanover, Commissioner Rothstein will be there. At 6 o'clock, Carroll Community Board meeting in Westminster.
Somebody will be there.
Someone will show.
Right.
On Thursday, December 13th, we're going to release the FY18 Audit and Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. We're going to have a request approval to use term contract with ProShot Concrete Incorporated for 3 culverts. We have a request for approval for Next Generation 911, hold on, 11, here you go, readiness assessment. We're going to move on to, I guess we're going to talk about a comprehensive rezoning resolution for commercial, industrial employment and tax procedure. At 4 o'clock, we have CLSI Holiday Open House in Westminster with Commissioner Weaver. At 4:30, Carroll County State's Attorney's Holiday Party in Westminster, Commissioner Frazier, Wance, Weaver, Boucher, and Rothstein. At 6:30, Maryland MML League Dinner in Manchester, Commissioners Frazier, Wance, Weaver, Boucher, and Rothstein. Friday.
Manchester? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, they're hosting it.
That's what it says here. I know Denise is
Yeah.
never wrong. Friday, December 14th, 7:30 a.m., BWI Partnership Breakfast. We know who's going there?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
Okay,
two
okay.
of us are
It's
going.
Wayne Center, Rothstein, okay. 11 o'clock, North Carroll Senior Center Holiday Meal in Hampstead, Commissioner Weaver. At 11 o'clock, we also have our county holiday potluck luncheon in the Reagan Room downstairs. Do we have to say, put me down for that?
I mean, I would say all 5 of us will make an appearance
Yeah.
there at some point, so. I don't know what the legalese is, but.
What will you
know,
be bringing?
I've been. I actually gave him cash, so, you know.
Then you can attend.
Saturday, December 15th, 12 o'clock, Wreaths Across America program in Deer Park Cemetery, Commissioner Weaver. At 6:30 p.m., Town of Hampstead Annual Holiday Dinner in Hampstead with Commissioner Weaver. Commissioners report.
Boucher will have the
Commissioner
WTTR
Boucher
address.
will have the WTTR address this time.
Gee, thank you. I thought you guys liked me.
7:05
2 o'clock.
a.m. Did we tell you that's live, Eric?
That's what happens when you're new,
Oops.
right?
From your house,
Yeah, all right.
an hour before.
I'll be all sleepy.
Yeah, that's even better.
Okay, at 2 o'clock, we have the Antrim's Champagne Christmas Open House for the Boys and Girls Club of Westminster at Commissioner Wance.
I'm going to graduate that day.
December
Before we
16th.
move on, I just want to say, The comprehensive rezoning, conversation is gonna be sort of a work session, kind of.
Okay.
Okay.
It didn't say where it was, it just said it on there,
Right.
yeah.
Just to give everybody, an idea of where we've been, a little brief of where we've been, and then time, a good bit of time, a couple hours blocked out in case we need them, to really delve into what the rezoning is gone from and to, and then so you understand what the suggested changes are on the new zones, and then also what the next steps will be, a communication to constituents that are affected, and et cetera, et cetera. So it'll be sort of a work session.
Okay, Tuesday, December 18th, Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, in the Reagan Room. Commissioner Wance, I believe Commissioner Rothstein will be there as well. At 9:00 a.m. At 3 o'clock, with joint commissioner delegation meeting in our Reagan Room with all the commissioners. At 12 o'clock on Wednesday, December 19th, Mount Airy Senior Center, I can't talk today, holiday meal, Commissioner Boucher. On
I will be the whippersnapper there, you know.
I was gonna suggest that you make sure that they don't keep you, so.
I'll be the life of the party.
Thursday, December 20th at 10 a.m., request approval to submit application for Callard Foundation Grant for Veteran Services Program. We have a medical respite space presentation. And the commissioner's report that week would be Mr. Rothstein, I believe. Yep, Mr. Rothstein, get ready.
Jump right into
Unless there's anything else, we need a...
Yeah, I got a couple things for open.
Go ahead.
Just wanted to let all of you know, especially my our two new colleagues here. We had set up a recruitment and retention fund for our volunteer fire departments. And we thought that was, we put $300,000 into that, and we thought that that was, something that they could really take and use. And they set up some guidelines and what have you, and we were very, they came and presented to us, and we were excited about what they've done. Just to let everybody know, that's on hold now. There has been no disbursements, and there won't be, because there has been some question raised by a few folks about receiving compensation as a volunteer and what that would do to the tax credit that's available for our volunteers at the end of the year on their tax worksheet, and also LoSAP that our volunteers get on a monthly basis, those that have reached the age of 62 or 60. 60.
LoSAP just is a length of service award.
Right. So anyway, there's questions about that, and apparently there are different guidelines when it comes to the Department of Labor and the IRS. So they're going to work through some of that and see what can be done there. So
Let them work through it and come back.
yeah. So I know if for you two, remember when we did question that,
Yes.
and our folks looked at it and said, I think we're okay, but now there's been additional questions. So
Let's get it right.
luckily, I think one of the past presidents of the Maryland State Firemen's Association is a tax lawyer. So hopefully they can grab a hold of that guy.
Just to be very clear, no, our folks said this really isn't our
bailiwick,
to
but
we suggest you get
right,
outside
and we
counsel.
right. So okay, so that's that. So want to
All
make
right.
sure. Number two, I'm going to try this for the third time. I have asked twice already for this county to become involved in the lawsuits against the opioid manufacturers, and I've failed twice. So I would like to ask a third time for consideration on being included in that. Most of our surrounding jurisdictions are doing it, and I think it's extremely important moving forward that we become involved in that. So I'm not asking for a decision today. I'm asking that we reach some sort of a determination here to ask our legal to get the details and present to us and then make a decision.
I think previously we haven't had the facts presented to us.
Yeah, we did.
Well, in detail to get everything.
Yeah, we did.
I think bring it back.
Okay, we
bring it
did.
back.
And
All right.
it was turned down.
Yeah.
It was turned down, but I just.
Okay.
But everything needs to be put out
Yeah,
there.
I think that is, the next piece of this, the due diligence, put it in front of us, because
Yes.
right now, I don't know.
Exactly, which is
So-
why I'm bringing it up again.
And I do
for you two.
appreciate it, and, yes, I think that's something that both, Commissioner Boucher and I are very adamant about in dealing with this opioid issue. So I would appreciate having that conversation and seeing what to do next.
Let's put it on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm full support of that idea as well, and I'm
I'll put it on the
backing
agenda.
Commissioners Weaver to get the information. That would be
Okay.
fantastic.
Okay. And thirdly, I don't know if you were gonna, you heard that, didn't you?
No, that's why I got
Oh.
him here.
Buzz
It's okay,
in?
I'll talk to him.
Okay, you can talk to him.
Transition.
So-
Supposed to be here.
Yeah, where were you, Bert?
Avoiding us.
I knew you were gonna say something.
I heard it on television.
Yeah, okay, see, I didn't know. And thirdly, I think we should just mention, and I don't know if you were going to, and if I'm stepping on your toes, throw something at me, because you've done that before. As we transition into this new board, there are many details about the responsibilities that each of us have and the direction that we're moving forward in. And I think we owe it to staff and everyone else to say that we're working on those. You heard some of that today about the responsibilities of the different departments and agencies that we're going to be ex officio members on. But I think out of respect for our staff, who kind of sits there and says, okay, so who's doing what? Folks need to know that it's taking a little bit of time. We're working on it. And as soon as we get that complete, we'll move.
It's only the
with
second,
those
third
things.
day, I mean.
Exactly,
give
but
them-
I think it's important,
Yeah.
out of respect for our staff,
Okay.
Yeah.
that they know that. Because 4 years ago, the direction was pretty clear, out of the gate for us. But we've taken a step back just to make sure our colleagues are familiar with the way in which things work here. And we'll have those responsibilities very shortly as we move forward.
Right.
You throwing anything at me?
Nope, that was good.
Okay.
I wasn't gonna bring
That's
it
all
up.
I had.
Okay. All right, then I guess we need a motion to recess until 1 o'clock.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are recessed until 1.